Are you a cheesesteak guy or are you a chicken parm guy? These are the questions that we ask our market movers because they are the important ones. And for the arbiter of our answers, we have to welcome in Captain Jack Andrews, who joins us remote today. Much appreciated. How are you, sir?
I'm good, Dan. I'm doing good. Now I'm hungry, though. So
I don't blame you. If you've been following unabated in our conversation on Twitter, the people want to know. They want answers. Is it a chicken parm or is it a cheesesteak? And I got to say, even being from Philadelphia, cheesesteak's a pander item. You're pandering if you take cheesesteak. Got to go with a sloppy chicken parm. Easy.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I can commit to that level of commitment on a sandwich. We were talking before we came on air. I think the roast pork with the broccoli rabe and the provolone is a sleeper sandwich that gets underappreciated. It's it's very much indigenous to the Philadelphia area as well, but the cheesesteak always gets all the publicity.
I love that description. Harold, tuning in. Welcome, Harold. Any questions for us, make sure you hop into the YouTube chat and let us know. Captain Jack is here as he joins us twice every month. We love having him here. We're going to get to a ton of stuff, but I would be remiss if we did not mention some of the things that I'm sure if you read the trades, you've been seeing a little bit of sport trade in the news of late. Of course, I'm referring to what happened over the weekend with Spanky being banned on sport trade. Obviously, we're not going to rehash the story. Everyone involved has made their statements, including our CEO, Alex Kane. A lot of people have chimed in. The facts are out there. They've been reported upon. There are reports from reporters who are doing their due diligence. So what I would like to chat with you about, Captain Jack, are a couple things. And mainly, one of the ones is you are an early adopter of sport trade. You've been on the platform for some time, and obviously you've been on Market Movers plenty of times as well. We strive at Sport Trade every day to make sure that our professional bettors, our sharp bettors, are confident that they can play. What has your experience been like on the platform in that regard?
Oh, absolutely. And I have not shied away from telling people that Sport Trade has exceeded my expectations. I did not expect there to be the liquidity that there is. I did not expect there to be the lack of friction. Moving money is so fast on Sport Trade, whether you're moving into a position, out of a position, there's no spinning wheel. You get filled. It's been a dream. It's been a unicorn, to be honest with you, Dan. It's been a unicorn. Like, this shouldn't exist in the wild, but it does. It exists here in New Jersey right now. I'd like to see it spread elsewhere.
Well, one of the questions we have on the channel here, any plans for Sport Trade to expand to Ontario, Canada? I hope so. I love Canada. I love poutine. Hopefully that's in the cards one day. You mentioned the wild, right? I think this gets to the general overall discussion of how this industry is regulated, frankly. Not at the federal level, at the state level, which means the 28, 29 states that have approved sports betting all have different parameters, not only of barriers of entry, but different ways in which they go about regulating this. And in many ways, frankly, it's archaic in the way that this is handled. And specifically here in New Jersey, again, as has been covered, a mobile operator is tied to a land-based casino. Frankly, this limits innovation. And you have been tweeting, Captain Jack, about how you would approach this if you were the czar of sports betting, sports trading for a day, a month, however long it takes to sort of pass legislation in this regard. How would you handle this? How would you change things?
You know, what makes Sport Trade such a unicorn is we have a business here which is not trying to fleece the consumer. We are not trying to run up the hold percentage. I say we, you guys, not me. I have no financial involvement in Sport Trade. I know that's been accused. Many people think that I'm on this Twitter campaign because I have some kind of investment in Sport Trade. I have none. But the point is, so many of these operators are out to find the highest hold percentage they can. Sport Trade is here saying, hey, we're going to take 2% of your wins. That's our entire commission structure. It's much less than the standard organic 4 to 6% that the average sports betting operator could hold, and it's far less than the 10 to 15% that we're seeing a lot of these retail operators try to hold. And that's just not going to fly well when you have to get a casino or a racetrack in the state to be the stakeholder for you, to hold the license that you rent a skin from. It's going to be very tough for them to say, oh yeah, we just want the guys making 2%. We don't want the guys making 10%. Because quite honestly, a lot of these stakeholders have a rev share deal with the skin. So they're incentivized to get the operators that make the most from the players. And Sport Trade, unfortunately, is not one of those operators. So therefore, it makes it very tough for any state to have an exchange ecosystem if they're going to have this similar type of licensing structure. That's why I think we need to take it out of state hands. I've been very vocal that I think federal regulation of sports betting exchanges is important, because this is something where it doesn't operate at a margin type of industry. It is a person-to-person exchange, much like any other futures commodity exchange. And that's why I think the CFTC is probably the place that should regulate it and make it available to people in all 50 states. So we don't have to go state by state and province by province to find who can play on Sport Trade. Make it be an open exchange system. Dan, I agree. This is something that would take a long time to make happen, but the snowball has to start somewhere to turn into the avalanche that finally changes how the sports betting industry operates.
And under that current structure, basically what you laid out, I mentioned how it limits innovation. It limits growth for a smaller company too, based upon the fact that you just said an operator is going to want to make as much money as possible. In an exchange structure, not necessarily the case. So it needs to be on a different playing field.
Absolutely. It's not apples to apples when it comes to exchanges versus operators. They're all part of this ecosystem. And I've said this time and again, exchanges are actually good for the greater ecosystem of sports betting because it allows for faster price discovery, which makes markets more efficient, which isn't always the best thing for the player. But in return, the player gets lower margins. They get better pricing. They get pricing inefficiencies that you can pick off, which I do daily on the Sport Trade application. And I have no trouble telling you or telling Alex, you know, look what I just bet on your app that I think is a huge positive EV play, because you guys don't care if I win or lose. You're not incentivized to have me win or lose. If anything, you're just incentivized to have me as a happy customer that's going to keep on playing. And so far, everyone that I've talked to that has been on the Sporttrade platform loves it. It is everything they want it to be, and it's even better than they expected it to be. So why not try to push this to go further? And that's what I've been trying to do.
Captain Jack Andrews joining us on Market Movers, and you have my vote for sports betting czar. We'll go talk a little bit about betting. How about we do some of that? We have included American Odds in the Sporttrade app. I know you were also tweeting about perhaps your disappointment in the fact that we have decided to include American Odds on the app. All kinds of things popping up on the phone. Disregard. Your thoughts on the inclusion of American Odds, and if you think some more traditional bettors who maybe saw that as a barrier of entry into what we were doing, implied probabilities, that is, in terms of pricing, do you think that's going to bring more people into the tent? I'll pull up your tweet here, sharing some disappointment in your inability now to profit off of others' stinginess in learning a new system.
Yeah, look, I've said all along, if there was a situation where I needed to learn Spanish in order to pick up free money on the ground, I would learn Spanish. And that's what was going on with Sporttrade. Yeah, you had to kind of think a little differently. You had to think in terms of implied probability. It's one of the reasons that as soon as Sporttrade was coming into the market, I said to the team at Unabated, we need to find a way to offer the American Odds that they're not going to offer on the app. That's going to make people want to come to Unabated to use Sporttrade. You guys got the message as well, and you created the American Odds. I like the way it's implemented on Sporttrade's app. It's not like a toggle switch where you, instead of displaying the Sporttrade odds, you can now display American Odds. They're very discreetly listed there under the name of the team. Because here's the thing, Dan, that I think, again, bettors aren't factoring in. When you get into a position and you're looking to buy or sell out of that position while the game's going on, before the game has settled, it is very advantageous for you to use the Sporttrade odds because you have the implied probability and you have that share price where you say, okay, I know I have 10 contracts of this at 21. It's now at 24. Therefore, I know I have a $30 gain because you're just $3 difference times the number of contracts you have. Very easy to understand. Whereas if you were to go, I have plus 400 and now the price is plus 370, it's very tough to kind of do that mental math in that regard. So I'm all for using the American Odds to find your price and then using the Sporttrade odds to gauge your win-loss and trade in and out of positions.
How tough was it for you when you initially saw the implied probability? Did you understand it? Did you need one of our laminated sheets that, if you listen to Spanky's podcast over the weekend, he called us out for? How hard was it for you?
One of the first things I did was create my own non-laminated sheet of conversion prices.
There you go.
And the funny thing is when I came in to do the show in studio with you starting in September, I would bring this along because I wanted to make sure I could quickly go back and forth in terms of my own, because I think in terms of American Odds. I'm a sports bettor.
Right.
If you're somebody coming into Sporttrade from the investment side, you're going to think in terms of share price, and you're not going to understand American Odds. So this is a way of just kind of bridging the gap, dealing to the sports bettors who I think find tremendous value on the Sporttrade app, and also still respecting the other side of the vertical that you've expanded into investment bettors who just see this as another market to play in.
I want to pivot to some actual advice here, some actual trading advice, betting advice. Of course, Captain Jack from Unabated joining us as he does twice a month. It's a new year, right? People like to make New Year's resolutions. A lot of them involve going to the gym for the first 3 weeks of the year and then never going again. But as a bettor, as a trader, self-scouting, I know, is something that a lot of professional bettors like yourself talk about. And it's not just looking at wins and losses, but the process into how that actually comes to be. When you are self-scouting, when you are looking at the process of what works and doesn't work, what are you looking for?
So one of the things that I'm in favor of, Dan, is go into your new year with a plan. And look, I file my taxes as a self-employed professional gambler. So I actually need to have a business plan in order to present myself as a professional gambler. I need to act professionally. So I have a business plan. And what I do this time of year is I'm making out my plan for 2023. And I'm going through and saying, okay, well, how much time am I devoting to this? What are the angles I'm going to be looking for? When do I need to start to prepare for this sport? Because honestly, if you're just getting into football now, too late. Too late. The season's almost halfway. Right now, I'd actually be preparing for baseball. I know that sounds crazy, but you're seeing a lot of different influences in the market in baseball right now with all the free agent signings to dictate what the coming year will be. And each one of those player differences within a baseball lineup has a value. There's a book out there called Trading Bases by Joe Pito, where he basically took the wins above replacement value of a player and factored that in with off-season transactions to then figure out how many wins a team would have in the coming year, and then extrapolate from that their winning percentage, and then extrapolate from that the matchups, and then he based an entire season of betting off of that. A long way to explain to you that you start now for the future. So look, you still have time to get in on college basketball. College basketball, we're still early in the season. We haven't even started on the mid-majors, the conference play, all that stuff in January. So if you wanted to get on something before it happens, start looking at college basketball now. Get yourself ready for conference play. You'll be better off for it. But basketball, we're about midway through the season already, although we haven't even hit those Christmas Day games, which I feel is like the official start of the NBA season.
Right.
But football, man, football's almost done and gone. So start to focus on some other games and use that as your starting point, and then decide how you want to approach those sports, whether you want to do it from a bottom up where you're kind of handicapping and modeling, or you want to do it from a top down where you're using like our unabated odds screen so you can see who has the best price. Often it is Sport Trade because of the low margin. There it is right on the screen. You can bounce around and you can find where you're going to get the best price. And we'll even have if you're a premium subscriber, we'll tell you what your edge is when you have situations where down there, the Tennessee game, there is a slight positive EV edge to betting Tennessee at Sport Trade. That price includes commissions. So it's the same price you would see in the app with the American odds. It'll probably be displayed as plus 141 in the app right now. And yeah, it's a positive EV price. You can look across the board, and you're elsewhere, FanDuel and DraftKings, you're only getting plus 130. Plus 141 is identical to the unabated price. So it's at worst a break-even price right there, and we still have 5 or so more days until that game happens.
When you were looking at predictive models, right, how important is it to find one that you absolutely, positively don't have to trust? And by that, I mean, like you're looking at, ESPN FPI, right, has been in the news for its undying love of the Dallas Cowboys. When watching the two teams play, I'm referring to the Cowboys and the Eagles, it would seem preposterous that the Cowboys would have over a 50% chance of winning the Super Bowl. But people are looking at this and saying, okay, I'm going to use this as actionable information. So how do you sort of suss out those differences in what your eyeballs are seeing compared to what a computer is telling you?
I wrote an article about a year ago, and I think it maybe not have been the title of the article, but what the main tagline of the article was, good enough for 3, good enough for me. And what that meant is take a sample of all different power rating systems that are out there. Power rating systems are predictive. Basically, you can take two power ratings for a teams and subtract one from the other and add in home field advantage, and you'll get what the line should be on those two teams. And for the most part, you're going to see that a lot in different power rating systems. And at Unabated, we have our NFL season simulator, and we have multiple power rating systems. We have the ESPN FPI system. We have in Predictable's power ratings. We have the Massey Peabody ratings from Rufus and his partner Cade Massey. We have many others that you can use. And what I tell people is go ahead and run the simulations for 3, 4, 5 of them. And when they converge on something, well, then you have some signal. There's going to be teams like Dallas where there's a wide variety of what the predictions are for them. Predictions are teams with injury plague information is often hard to predict as well. So like San Francisco right now, how good is Brock Purdy? We don't really know. I noticed I was actually looking at the Massey Peabody rankings before we came on air, and they do have Philadelphia over Dallas in the Massey Peabody rankings. So they're about a 1-point favorite on the neutral field.
I'm aware. I have a natural follow-up, but I'm aware of where they are in the Massey Peabody rankings.
But the thing I was going to mention is San Francisco last week, because of the unknown what Jimmy G was going to injury information, what Brock Purdy would be able to do. They dropped, and then this week they went back up. So San Francisco's a team with a lot of variance. And I remember I was on your show back in September. We were looking at the futures odds screen here, and I said, well, the value I see in the screen is San Francisco at $5, and it's, you could have basically doubled your money at this point. You can sell them for 9.5 right now. They're a risky play though. They'll be bouncing all over the place, and it depends on the seeding and where they're going to have to play at in the playoffs.
My natural follow-up: they have the Bills ahead of the Eagles. Still, Bills have looked suspect in the last month or so. I'm just being a homer, and I think it's ridiculous. I planted my flag yesterday. I am a fatalist Philadelphia, former Philadelphia resident, but Philadelphia native. And I think this team is going to win the Super Bowl. So to me, the Eagles at $18 in our futures market on Sport Trade, at least to even get to the big game, to me, easy money. I think you should be, we preach responsible gambling on the program, but you should be emptying the account in order to get as many contracts as possible. And the Eagles at $18 per contract. And there are 85 of those that are available. So from a liquidity standpoint, let's say we have 85 contracts. It's $1,500 to return $6,800. So that's just me. Captain Jack, I'll pull up the unabated screen because this is a pricing question for you. So when you are, is there a point where, a number is just too uninviting, regardless of the market, to where you're really no longer interested? There's no value, even when you compare it to other prices. So I guess my question is, at what point do you just kind of walk away? Is there a point?
There's always, look, I'm always going on price. So there's always going to be situations where I may be taking a side that I don't believe is going to win just based on price alone. I made a bet on the Chicago Bears money line earlier today, price that was even better than what's on our screen here. But I was able to get plus 380 on the Bears this week. I will probably look to trade out of that at some point. I think the general public is going to basically, they're thinking about the Eagles' dominating performance last week. They're thinking the Bears have been struggling a little bit. I think that market's going to come back down a little. And I think plus 380 was too high. So I took a piece of that, and I'll probably play it back at some point. But I'm not necessarily rooting for the Bears. I don't think the Bears are going to win. I think the Eagles will probably smash them. But it's all about the price, Dan. And so sometimes you just, you close your eyes and click on the price, and you can always, that's the nice thing, you can always trade back out of it if you need to.
I love hearing that. Sometimes we just close our eyes, we find the best price, and we hit bet or trade in this matter, or buy and sell, or what have you. This is more of a personal question. People writing into the show all the time, as you know, engagement just off the charts. Somebody wrote in and wanted to ask the best tactic for balancing your betting Saturday and Sunday of this weekend, and then Saturday and Sunday next weekend, of course, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, of which there are 11 games on Christmas Eve, 3 Christmas Day, plus your entire slate of NBA. I guess what I'm asking you, or what this writer is asking us, our viewer, is how do you not get divorced over the next 14 days?
Yeah. It's tough, man. It is tough. And I am very much all about work-life balance. I think that's one of the things that I've done poorly in my early years as a sports bettor was work-life balance. So I encourage people to look. You don't need to bet every game. You don't need to have action all day Christmas Day. The NBA and the NFL competing this year on Christmas Day is pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's even more wild that the NFL has some real stinkers of games on Christmas Day. So the NBA is going to win the battle this year. But for me, look, it's okay to take a day off. Even if that day is a very busy day, it is fine. You don't have to bet every day. That's one of the advantages you have as a bettor. You get to pick and choose where you place your bets, when you place your bets. And for the most part, I think anytime that you're choosing life over work in terms of sports betting, you're probably making the right choice. So don't let it bother you too much. And, enjoy your family time if you have that over the Christmas holidays or whatever holidays you have.
We'll wrap up, Captain Jack, with one final note. The cheesesteak equinox did not hit over the weekend. Eagles and Sixers took care of business. The Flyers did not. I did not know this. So the fourth time in 40 years they were going for didn't happen. I am very happy to tell you that another opportunity for the cheesesteak equinox is coming in 2 Sundays. January 8th. I guess that's in 2 Sundays, 3 Sundays. I don't know. The Eagles play the Giants, the Sixers play the Pistons, and the Flyers are hosting the Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe Harold or whoever was asking about Ontario will watch. I know they're not in the same place. Don't be bad at me. This could happen. We could get the cheesesteak, or maybe we're calling it the chicken parm, equinox. What sort of research went into finding this?
Well, there's the guy I follow on Twitter named @BoopStats. He's a local guy. He's a Cherry Hill guy.
Okay.
And
Boop?
he
As in like what you do to your dog?
BOOP
Okay.
stats. Former Philadelphia Inquirer writer Ed Barkowitz turned me on to him, and he's a great follower.
Bob Vitrone. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so he has all these great statistics related to Philadelphia sports. So that was one he had this week. Look, January 8th, I'll call it right now. It ain't going to happen. The Flyers aren't beating Toronto. So as much as it pains me to say that, yeah, Eagles, Giants, okay, that should be a W for the Eagles. Sixers, Pistons.
Well, who knows? I mean, who knows where the Eagles may have wrapped up a 1 seed by then. They may only play their guys 1 quarter.
That is true.
Right?
That
who
is
knows?
True.
Yeah.
I will tell you, Dan, I don't care about January 8th and what happens, because on January 8th, I'm headed to Key West, Florida. I'm finally taking a little bit of vacation. So January 8th, I'm on a plane, and I don't really care if the cheesesteak equinox hits or not. If I tweet about it, there's going to be misspelled words. It's just going to happen.
Favorite Key West drink before we go?
I think you got to go with a rum runner if you're in Key West. I think that's, it's like having a Mai Tai in Hawaii.
That sounds good. I think we may have just. Oh! I thought we lost you for a second there.
Oh.
Would have been the first time in Market Movers history. Captain Jack, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, you can check out Captain Jack and the rest of the Unabated gang on the Unabated. You guys do a live show every single day, correct? And then you also got the podcast too.
We premium members get live shows 2 days a week, and then we have a public live show on Thursday nights at 7 p.m. And we have a podcast out now as well. So you get it's pretty much unabated now with our content, but hopefully people enjoy it.
Captain Jack Andrews, thank you so much for joining us. We'll wrap things up here on the program with a quick reminder that on Sunday, we have an incredible show for you we've never done before. It's called Trade the Game. It's going to be from 3:30 to 4:30, right at the end of, there's my button, right at the end of the 1 o'clock slate and the beginning of the 4 o'clock slate. We'll be trading live while also tracking the largest price swings and biggest trades with Matt Garcia and Anita Marks and myself playing Traffic Cop. Do not miss it. This is going to be basically if you could marry Red Zone and Mad Money with Jim Cramer. That's what we're looking for. It's going to be a great time. That's the show for today. We are back tomorrow with a look at UFC, which is now tradable on Sport Trade. Another big card coming your way on Saturday. We will break it down for you tomorrow at 4. Have a great one.